Prepare to be influenced. Joining us today is TV podcast personality and social media influencer, Becca Tilley.
Hey!
Yay!
Yay! Hi!
And much rejoicing ensued.
What's on today's menu, you may ask? It's bachelor gossip, branding wisdom, Instagram pro tips, and a cold, hard look at cancel culture. I'm Jamie Alcroft, here with Danny Van, producer Dina Friedman, and our host, Louise Palenka.
Anchor.
Thank you, Jamie. Have you kids found anything intriguing online, Danny, Jamie, Dina, that you would like to share with our virtual classroom?
No, but we have a lot of other stuff we can talk about.
No, nothing. Yeah.
So
Well,
I almost didn't know that the show was today because there was a long weekend,
Right.
and that threw me off.
That's
even
so
though
confusing.
even though I was already thrown off because nobody knows what day or month it is to start with.
Yeah,
and-
wasn't it weird to have a long weekend when every day feels like a weekend anyway?
Yeah, so
I had just had a 65-day weekend, and now I'm supposed to decide about a 3-day weekend. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Time has shut down. It is shut down. Every day, it's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's just someday. Every day is just someday.
Someday.
yeah, I read somewhere online, so hooking it back into our theme, that 2020 is a very unique leap year because February had 29 days, March had 300 days, and April was 5 years. And
Well,
May we don't know yet because we're still doing it. But
Yeah, but Danny, everything has a silver lining. There's good news. Look, I'm getting 3 weeks to the gallon in my car.
oh my God, that's better than a
That's mileage
Tesla.
I've ever gotten. And,
A charge on a Tesla, like you would still be at 3/4 charge.
oh my God, I feel like I'm 16 again because gas is cheap and I'm grounded.
Oh, and my new motto, it's been my motto throughout this thing, but I keep reiterating it to anyone that'll listen. I may have said it on the show before. Who remembers that I said, I am so looking forward to being able to sit around the house and do absolutely nothing, talk to nobody, not shave and not care and watch whatever I want and binge. Not because I have to, but because I want to.
That's right. That's right. But at least, even though somebody wants to stop the mail right now, the mail is still coming in, and it's really nice every day to hear from the outside world. Yesterday I got a pre-declined credit card in the mail.
That is so lovely. Remember in college when every company on the planet sent you credit cards and you only had $1.90 to your name? And you went, this is great. And by the way, I mea culpa here. I'm going to be catching up a little bit during the episode, but I just read the email quickly, and I thought Becca Tilley was coming out to discuss influenza.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
And it turns out she's an influencer, and I read it too quick, so I had the completely wrong preparation.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to focus and track your words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the run on toilet paper is clear evidence of how much of this stuff people were stealing from work. And I think we need an investigation.
You mean they're embezzling toilet paper at work?
Well, all of a sudden, that's the one thing people need to go purchase on their own. Weren't you?
Right. So we've gone from white collar crime to white paper crime.
Thank you. I would like to introduce our guest, Becca Tilley.
Yay.
Would you like to hear more about her? Because I have it here on my script.
I thought she sounds like a country star. That sounds like a country star.
Well, we're working there. We're working on that because she's got a lot of doors opening for her. Becca Tilley is a reality TV star turned social media influencer, fashion and lifestyle blogger/vlogger, and YouTube host. She has recently launched a fashion collection. Hold on, I have to unmute my TV. And she has recently launched, well, I mean, we're all doing that, right?
Are we interrupting your day?
No, it's just when Trump talks, I hit the mute button. Right. She has recently launched a fashion collection through Bar 3 and Macy's. Becca Tilley was a contestant on the 19th season of The Bachelor with Bachelor Chris Soules, where she finished as runner-up. She returned again for the 20th season of The Bachelor with Ben Higgins, where she remained through week 7. So you re-upped for a second tour of duty, where you
enough of her.
were you a fan favorite invited back by production, or because fans of The Bachelor, we're always speculating as to what was really going on.
Did you just say we?
Oh,
we
me and Tina? Yeah, big
you
time.
watched that?
Fully, totally, completely, unapologetically. I'm a woman in America.
Let me hear you. Let me hear you roar.
This is our appointed duty. We have to pretend that romance is happening because the imagery is so lovely that we cannot look away. Okay. Were you in love with Ben? Did you ask to go back? Because I don't remember that storyline. Please help refresh my memory.
So hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me on. That was a lovely intro.
That was
loved
a book.
Hearing all my accolades read back to me. So that was an interesting situation because after Chris's season, my best friend Caitlin from that season went on to be the Bachelorette, and we were watching the premiere together in a hotel room, and Ben Higgins got out of the limo, and I was like, well, who is that? He's so cute. He seems so nice. And she kind of went on to say, you would be so great together. And we kind of figured out that he would probably be the next Bachelor. And so in my mind, I kind of just, blew it off because I was not planning on going back on or asking the producers if I could go back on. So I had tweeted something about, so my whole storyline on Chris Soul season was that I was a virgin and I had never been in love. And so I tweeted something along the lines of Ben Higgins is exactly what a 26-year-old virgin is looking for, something along those lines. And about 2 weeks before they started filming, one of the producers reached out to me and, he was kind of like, well, what are you doing this fall? And I acted aloof, and he was like, you know what I'm talking about. And so I didn't want it to be this whole dramatic thing because I actually wanted to meet him and get to know him. So I told them I would only do it if they let me start from the beginning like everybody else, and it wasn't this like mid-season drama. And so they agreed to it, and that's how that all went down.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could remind us how the other girls responded to seeing you take part in their season.
Catfight.
To be honest, for the most part, in reality, it was a very warm welcome. A lot of the girls hugged me and they were like, oh my gosh, we loved you in last season. But of course, there were a few who were not happy about it, which I expected. I was so nervous walking in, knowing that they would probably think it wasn't fair. But for the most part, everyone was nice. And once we got past those initial feelings, it wasn't brought up again.
Stupid boy, non-Bachelor watching question. So they do the season, they eliminate. At the end of the season, doesn't the Bachelor choose somebody and ride off into the sunset?
Normally, the goal is that there's a proposal at the end.
Right. So I guess I'm wondering how, if they've gone through everybody and you've been eliminated, how do you end up coming back?
Different Bachelor, Danny.
Different Bachelor. It was a different guy.
Different Bachelor.
Different season.
So have other people come back?
There's been a few here and there, but normally it is a big dramatic reasons, but there's been a few who have come back, but not many have done the.
So you must be pretty special to have been asked back. They must have, obviously you worked well or went well.
I think, to be honest, it was one of those things. The first season I went on, my friend had nominated me for the show, and it was, in my mind, I thought, why not? Out of all the people who have sent in videos or been nominated, for some reason they saw my friend's nomination for me, and I thought, maybe I'll get to travel, maybe I'll like this guy, maybe I'll have an experience. And I liked him, but I intentionally went back because I wanted to meet Ben, who was the next Bachelor. So I think they just knew that I was genuinely interested, and they liked me.
So what you guys need to know, Jamie and Danny and all males, not that, I mean, a lot of men are fans of Bachelor Nation, but on her first season when she was dating Chris Soules, he's a farmer in Iowa, and she got down to the final two, and I'm not sure how panicky you get when you're like, a heartbeat away from living on a farm. What are you thinking? Okay, exit strategy. Here we go. Oh yeah, I'm allergic to hay.
I have a fear of silos.
It was so funny because my whole, especially towards the end, there was this whole back and forth of me, because at the time I lived in San Diego. I loved my life in San Diego. The whole process is only 8 weeks. And I think I made it to the final 2. And I think I probably spent 48 hours total with this guy. So I was not ready to commit to uprooting my life from San Diego to a farm in Iowa. And I was very open and honest about that. And so I had kind of said, hey, I am willing to see where this goes, but I don't want to make any promises and make you think that I'm just picking up my life where I live and moving to where you live. So
worst case scenario, you start a farm in San Diego.
Yeah. Start a farm in San Diego. It seems like the best case scenario. But I told him if I ever did move to Iowa that I would need some corn mazes made to keep me entertained, maybe, sell tickets. I'm from Louisiana. So
if you saw The Shining.
Yeah, they're scary.
Well, according to this article from ET Online, though she's made an income off of social media, Tilley still struggles with balancing the positive with the negative. She says, when I post a photo and I get 100 nice things said about me and I get one rude thing said about me, for some reason I dwell on the one rude thing. She admits that she probably wouldn't have these insecurities had she not been on TV. But wouldn't we all be distracted by the one rude thing people say to us? Or do we have no idea what that's like times a million for a TV and internet personality?
Yeah, it's so funny because before I went on the show, I never thought anything about what I was posting on my social media because I didn't have so many eyes watching me. And so it was weird because even though I had more praise and people who liked me and wanted to know more about me, it brought on this new insecurity of, am I saying the right thing? Do I look the right way? I'm such a people pleaser. So I still to this day, I am so focused making sure that what I'm saying is politically correct, that I'm not offending anyone, that I look okay, that I'm wearing something that's, not too revealing just in case someone who's looking up to me is, I've had to process all of these things that I didn't have to think about so much before I went on the show.
Mm-hmm. How much of what we see of people's personalities in the Bachelor franchise is real? Are specific character traits magnified for the sake of building stories?
Good question.
Thanks, Danny.
It's a TV show, so they are creating storylines to draw in the viewer. So the people who are villains, I put quotes around villains, are actually quite lovely in person, but they're the ones who are going to speak their mind. They're going to say something that gives them just a snippet that is just enough to make people think that they have bad intentions or that, they're out to get the other girl. So the producers are amazing at guiding the storyline, but it's not edited. They're not telling you to say anything, but they do know how to guide a story, how they want it to go.
I don't know if you would know that. Do you know the ratio of shooting on that show? Like how much they shoot to get how much product?
Well, so each episode is 2 hours TV time. So take away commercials, whatever that ends up being. And then we're pretty much mic'd and on camera, I would say 12 to 14 hours a day, at least. Wow. Minimum.
So give me an example of a leading question that producers ask, because I know they're really good at it, and you guys must have all kinds of inside jokes about, the way they frame a question to get you to say something. But like, what's an example?
Well, everyone always, because there's only one Bachelor and there's 25 to 30 women on there, or vice versa if it's the Bachelorette. Everyone has the question: Are you girls all really attracted to this Bachelor? Like, what are the chances that all of these women are attracted and wanting to date this man? And the producers, every time it was an interview time, it would be like, doesn't Chris or Ben look so handsome today? Doesn't he smell really good? And of course you're like, yeah, he's dressed by a stylist. He smells amazing at all times. His breath always smells good because they have Listerine strips ready for everybody. So it was always funny because we would have to answer in full sentences. So they'd ask the question, doesn't Chris look great today? I'd be like, yeah, he does. And they're like, no, say it in a full sentence. So it'd be, Chris walked in and he looks so handsome today and he smells so good. And, there was always those types of things where they kind of just led you to say what they prompted. But there was a time when they wanted me to say that I was in love with him and I wasn't. And we sat in an interview room for hours. It was like 1 a.m. and we were going back and forth. They were trying everything they could to get me to say it.
Aren't all the answers on this show basically, I mean, wouldn't it behoove them to say whatever they think it would take to stay on the show, whether it's true, false, or whatever?
I mean, absolutely. And especially now with the potential of what can come after being on the show, especially now with social media following and the opportunities they have. The goal, I would say, is to stay on as long as you can. And
right.
I'm lucky in the sense that during the seasons I was on, social media was just starting in that regard of like reality television personalities having following. So that was luckily never thought in my mind.
Is there any way to have a real relationship with real emotions and real gut feelings on that show? Or is it all just play acting? Do you feel like you're just in a play?
It's not a play. I mean, I will say on Ben's season, I mean, I was very, very emotional. I cried. I was jealous. I didn't like seeing him with the other girls. I cried when I left. I feel like my feelings were hurt. But there is this sense of underlying competition because all we're trying to do is end up with this guy at the end. And so whether people admit it or not, or whether they even acknowledge it or not, it is this level of competition that is natural, within us as human beings to want to get to the end and win. But I have friends one of my best friends from the show, she was the Bachelorette and she was supposed to get married this month, but she's moved it for obvious reasons. But they've been together for 4 years, so it definitely works. It's just a very sped up experience.
Well, I think the viewer understands that people are not always there for the right reasons. If you want love, Tinder gives you better odds. So am I watching theater, or am I watching a psychological study revealing what occurs when the outside world, phones, and competing male or female energy is removed? Under these conditions, does anyone find themselves falling in love with that bachelor or that bachelorette?
I think people definitely have instant connections with each other. And I think if you put people in a bar and you say, hey, go connect with someone, you're most likely going to find someone that you like with those odds, especially as the bachelor or bachelorette. If you're put in a room with 30 or 25, 30 people who have been done personality tests, they've been tested to see if they're a match with you, you're most likely going to connect with probably more than a few of them. I think the thing that challenges viewers to like even open their mind to it is that it's all on TV, it's edited for drama, and it's hard to really see what's going on because they can't show every single thing, every single conversation that's happening between people. That might be a genuine conversation and connection, but it's not good TV, so they don't air that.
Right. But if there's 20 people vying for one person, does that person become more attractive because of those odds?
Absolutely. I think all of us in this chat would agree that if everyone's going after one person, they're instantly more attractive.
That's fascinating.
It seems like for some people, being in this extraordinary situation and having like all these heightened emotions may be more conducive to falling in love, or at least like a buildup of passion or something like that.
I totally agree. I mean, it's funny because the original, when I went on the show, I remember seeing, I didn't watch the show before I was on, but I would see clips of like helicopter dates and all these amazing fairy tale dates. And so when I went on, I was ready for my helicopter date, for the experience. And I got weird dates that were so real life that I never got that like fairy tale, felt gypped.
What were your dates?
Which remind me, which is the fairy tale where there's a helicopter?
Well, You know the Disney movie Cinderella, where they come in with a chopper?
Your Rapunzel's going, yeah, Rapunzel, no, closer to the window. No, I can't come in, the blades will hit.
You know, fairy tale in our minds as women of just being rescued by, you know, a man and a camera on a helicopter.
All right, so let's talk about how you went from being on The Bachelor into pursuing your next career goals.
Well,
it was interesting coming off of the show because, like I said, social media hadn't become a profitable job yet in that sense, because I went back, I worked for a chiropractor in San Diego. I was a chiropractic assistant, and I went back to work after both seasons, and my life was very normal aside from having followers on Instagram and people occasionally saying hi to me or wanting a photo in public. But other than that, my life had kind of gone back to how it was before I went on the show. And eventually I was going back and forth to LA for different events and meeting different people. And one of my friends had an agency, and he, you know, kind of told me, he's like, if you wanted to do sponsored posts and working with different brands, you could make a living off of this. And I was really nervous because in my mind, I thought, okay, I have however many months until the next season airs before I'm old news, and that's not a sustainable lifestyle. But I figured, why not make the move while I have the opportunity? So I moved up to LA, and I started working with different brands, and I was just doing them on my own. They would email me. I actually acted as an assistant. So I acted like I had a fake name that I was acting like my own manager in a separate email. And I was just like responding because I didn't feel like I could do it on my own and have any respect.
Aww.
So, which I really sold myself short, because I could have been making a lot more money if I just actually hired a manager to do it for me.
I know, but that was a way for you to build up those muscles and get comfortable in that role. So
right. And to be honest,
did you use a different voice when you called as the manager?
it was all email, so I never had to use a voice.
John Barron. I'm calling for Becca.
Yeah, I just did a lot of
Hi, this is Judy. I'm calling for Becca.
I should have hired you. That was an intimidating voice. So now when the girls get off the show, they're instantly met with management companies like flooding them, wanting to represent them. But when I was off the show, that wasn't the case. So I had met with a couple of managers, and I just didn't click. And I thought, maybe this is how it is. It's a business relationship. I'm not going to overthink it. And one of my friends from San Diego, her friend had a PR company, and she was kind of asking what I was wanting to do. And I told her I really didn't know. I wasn't sure what direction to go with what I was doing. And she said I should meet with her friend. So I met with her, and we just ended up clicking. She actually never watched the show, but everyone told her that she looked like, they would be like, you look like Becca from The Bachelor. And she didn't know who it was because she didn't watch it. And so she's one of my best friends now, and I'm managed by her company. And they just totally took what I had and made it into what it is now. So I really have to credit. It's Be Social PR is my management company.
Question, does everybody who has gone through the process like you, do they, if they don't get chosen or whatever, so two questions actually, if they do get chosen, how many, do they all get married? I mean, or is it just like they date the guy? Is it all?
No,
that was part one. Part two is, do all the women that don't get on, or all the men on the other show, do they all kind of go into what you're doing, where they can be a personality and be represented and be kind of an influencer, etc.?
Jamie? Oh, you're muted.
Jamie, you're muted. Marlene Maitland knows what you're saying.
I think most of them open car dealerships, don't they?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the majority of the women on The Bachelor do that. Because they have a name. They have that name value.
Come on into Bachelor Ford. I can fix you up with a beautiful Thunderbird.
Tilley Chevrolet.
So the track record isn't great for couples staying together. I think the percentage is not very high. However, I've noticed more it seems to be when the Bachelorette is the one who's choosing the men, their relationships seem to last longer than the Bachelor. I don't know what that means. Don't want to, say anything, but I've noticed that that's the case. And then there's a spin-off show, and it's a summer show called Bachelor in Paradise, and they bring in equal amounts of women and men, and they spend, I think it's 3 weeks together, and a lot of those couples have stayed together. They have kids, they're married. So
Becca, asking for myself, my own best friend, is there Bachelor in Paradise this summer?
I don't know, because we still don't have Bachelorette, which they were supposed to film, and that should be airing soon if they had filmed that. So my guess is that they'll focus more on doing Bachelorette, and then they'll just go to Bachelor, or maybe they'll do a Winter Paradise. I don't know. I'm so
not
sad.
There's no Zoom Bachelor?
I think so.
I wonder if eventually we'll have a gender fluidette where anybody of any background can come in and end up with anybody of any other background.
Well, yeah, on last season of Bachelor in Paradise, they had a girl. I don't remember people's names, Becca. I watch these shows and I don't remember.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of people. So
Doesn't that make it hard to follow?
No, because I know who I'm looking at, and when I'm watching it, I know who they're talking about, and then it just goes away.
The girl with the limp. The girl with the limp.
The blonde girl, the one who came down the steps.
Yes. Step girl.
She had left a girlfriend at home, and then she starts dating a guy on Bachelor in Paradise, and then her girlfriend from home came down the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that happened last summer. So
I'd watch that.
I'm kind of excited about them opening up and understanding that, people aren't always attracted to the opposite sex. And
I think if they did, because I've had this conversation where if they had, let's say they did a bisexual version or, gender fluid, it would be hard because the contestants would then maybe be hooking up and not even worried about who the lead was because they all are living together in one place. So. It could get pretty, it'd be good to see, but it would probably get really wild.
Well, wasn't there one season where a girl on The Bachelor started dating one of the crew guys and there was scandal?
Oh, yeah. So that was, I can't remember whose season that was, but I do remember seeing that was dramatic. She got kicked off.
She was dating a crew guy?
She was dating a producer, I think.
Thank God she wasn't dating the drummer.
Yeah.
All right, so you have partnered with brands such as Dermalogica, Pond's, McDonald's, Nexus, and Lay's. How do you match your brand with brands that you choose to promote?
That list is so me. It's so random.
Lay's. There's nothing like a Dorito facial.
Sounds like a midnight trip to Vaughn's.
To exfoliate.
My Lay's sponsorship was so fun. I flew out to New York and I went to this amazing event on this rooftop, and there were 4 flavors that people had created and submitted, and Lay's made the flavors, and so we got to taste test before they were released and then got to choose our favorites. It was really fun.
I think you just go to the meeting and let the chips fall where they may.
Wait, Becca, what were some of the winning flavors?
Yeah.
There was like a cream cheese bagel was one of them.
Stop it. You're mean.
Tuna melt.
They were honestly all so good, which I was really shocked, but
vegan chili chips.
They
slowly pulls out Postmates and starts typing.
Note to self.
Listerine chip.
It's so funny because I was so at first I was trying to find the flavors, but it's way too far down. But at first I thought I need to take every single brand deal I get because I don't know how long this will last. I need to get as much money as I can and put it away. And then once I started working with Be Social, it was more, let's write down who you want to work with, and let's just focus on the people that actually are authentic to what you like and what represent you, which I love that McDonald's is on there because I love McDonald's. So I've gotten to work with all the people I put on that list, which is so cool because, I just wrote them down as if ever there was an opportunity, and they ended up happening. And I think because I've been so careful about who I work with and don't say yes to everything, I've turned down a lot of deals just because I don't want people to only see me as just like this page of ads that are so inconsistent with what I talk about and who I am as a person. So
can you say some of the ones you turned down and why?
Like there's like a bunch of different flat tummy tea, those types of things that are, basically make you have to go to the bathroom and you get a flat tummy is what I've heard. But there's
nice
been
combo.
It's just certain things that I feel don't promote health or don't promote a healthy lifestyle. And also if I don't use it or I wouldn't use it, I don't talk about it because then it.
So what's your ratio for sort of branded posts and then posts that are just you?
I used to do a lot more of non-branded posts, and then those would be trickled in every now and then because I was traveling a lot. So I was taking so many photos and getting so much content because I was traveling with brands and posting. But when I stopped traveling as much, basically because I got a dog, now because we can't travel, but it's hard to take a lot of photos of just being in the house. At some point, people are going to get tired of seeing the same thing. But when ads come, you just got to make it work and post. So the ratio is probably 50-50 right now, which is good. I should be posting more just personal stuff. But like I said, it's hard to feel inspired, confined.
So do you have full control of your social media accounts and you decide when you post branded content, when you post personal, or does your PR company like step in and like help you out or give you like advice or guidance?
So I, for my personal stuff, I have control and access to everything. I run everything, I post everything, but depending on the brand, if they're doing like a promotion thing and they have certain times or certain days where they want something to go up, then it's in the contract that I post on this day. And that's how that's normally worked out. But a lot of times I have pretty flexible creative control, which is nice because sometimes brands want you to do something that is not your style and it's not going to do well, or that people will know that it's just an ad. And
you would think that brands would understand at this point, like if they're huge international brands and they're working with influencers, you would think they would kind of understand how it works and like what to expect and what are like the best practices.
I think it's gotten a lot more where brands have given the influencer or whoever they're partnering with creative control, because I think they're understanding that maybe the way that things have worked for them for how many years isn't necessary. Like maybe there's room for change and growth. And I think sometimes, especially the bigger brands that are more traditional, they hold on to that tradition of what they know. But social media is just always changing and growing, and there's always room where there's going to be change. And you've got kind of just, if you're hiring someone to sell your product or promote your product, let them do it the way that makes them feel comfortable.
That's probably the most attractive thing about getting someone like you is, this is who I am, this is who follows me. Filter it through those eyes and ears and make the message come out through her, not through us.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nice that there has been, I've definitely noticed a change where brands are more like, hey, I do have to send things over for approval to make sure that I've hit all the points that they want me to hit, but they're pretty much like, do it in your own voice, which is nice because it's hard when they have a script or they want you to say something and you're like, I would never say it like this.
Yeah, no, this is my favorite kind of anvil.
Interesting that brands over the past, like say 50 or 70 years have been, highly produced ads, highly produced billboards, highly produced graphics. And yet now with social media influencers and with podcasters, I think they're finding some of their best results with just an authentic person saying, I really use this and it's really awesome and I love it. And that's just very organic and low tech.
That's a huge, that also is perceived though by the big companies and by ad agencies, et cetera, as we all know. That's a threat to their whole infrastructure. That negates, that's like record labels. All those guys in A&R departments that have all been rendered kind of muted by, free downloads and, the internet. They're all trying to rethink something that they've lost control of in a way.
Yeah. I mean, when TikTok came out and I had no idea what I was doing, I have never felt so. It was that feeling of change and feeling like I feel so behind on what's current and what's new. It's weird. I mean, it's happening to all of us. And it's going to continue to happen as technology continues to grow and social media changes and grows. So I mean, listen, brands that have been like, well, this has worked for us for this many years. We're going to let some girl who we don't even know personally speak for us and to our brand. But I think they're understanding that, like you said, Danny, people are wanting it to be a genuine reaction to what they're selling. And
bottom line is, though, they want eyeballs. I mean, that's what it's all about. So it's, if you're bringing in eyeballs, it's like, she's doing something. She's got something we need.
And they want results. So if someone that they trust is telling them that I like this product, that goes a long way, and they're learning that. So it's just, now it's about partnerships that really are exponential in what can be achieved. And it's really interesting. But I think there's a lot that social media influencers still need to learn if they come upon that fame really young, like at 12 or 15 or something. And it sounds like it happened for you at the right time in your life, where you were mature enough to handle this many people focused on what you were doing and what you were choosing to do.
We have a call from Jamie in Studio City. Jamie?
Yeah. Thank you, Danny. Should I turn down my radio?
Yeah, could you please? Yes.
Okay. Hey,
long time listener.
Is this live?
Yeah.
Becca, for those of us who are uninitiated, who might be listening, in our vast listener audience, can you explain to them what a weekend as an influencer would be? In other words, for those of us not under the influence, can you tell us what, although I am constantly.
You're under different influences.
Tell us, like this weekend you went to Japan and what you had to do.
Oh, yeah.
To fulfill your obligation to your client.
Yeah, so with travel opportunities, so in December I went to Japan. I actually went with Jamie's daughter Haley, and
here we go. Okay.
And
randomly.
Yeah, and she was so excited to go and had been before, and so we went with this company called Noken, and they're an app who basically creates an itinerary for you. So if you are going to this place, they suggest hotels, where to eat, what kind of, if you want a certain food, tourist attractions, they give you directions, how to use the transportation systems wherever you're going. It's an amazing app. And they offered a trip to Japan to promote it. So we went and everything was paid for. They had everything taken care of for us. And we were just kind of on our own and got to kind of go off the app and go to the places they suggested, or, find our own way. But they were there as a guiding tool. And while I was there, I did like stories for them on my Instagram story and just had to tag them, which they were so laid back. They were like a dream to work with. And then I had to do different posts, which made it so easy because Japan is like one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And it was, all I had to do was, take a photo that I would have posted anyway and tag the travel company in it. So that was really one of my dreams.
And they wanted something like 5 photographs or something.
Yeah, I think it was 4 photographs and then stories, and then I did like a vlog type video for them.
And that's extraordinary.
That sounds like, it sounds like you're a really responsible person, that if you're given an assignment, you go out of your way to carry through and to make everyone feel happy with the results. But it also sounds like really amazing opportunities open up for someone like you who has this skill set where you're good at photography, you're good at writing, you're good at presenting yourself, you're good at fashion design. You have a great aesthetic. You have a great look, and you know what looks good. Because that's part of being an influencer, means that your page has to have an aesthetic that matches, correct? It has to all look like it's coming from you.
Yeah, and that's so funny you say that, because I went through this whole phase where traditional bloggers, their photos, and if you look at the grid as their Instagram as a whole, not just picture by or photo by photo, the colors all match, it's all edited the same and it all flows. But that wasn't my personality. So I felt this pressure to have it look like that. But my manager was like, that's not you. That's not why people follow you. They know you from TV. They know your personality. They don't know you from like just aesthetically pleasing photos. So keep doing what you're doing because that's what they want to see. So mine's, although it's like, you know, photos that are all edited and stuff, they're not all cohesive in that sense.
It's like Angeline. Everything's got to be pink with Angeline.
But it's eclectic, and it all represents you, and because of all of your uniqueness and all of your varied interests and talents. Becca, yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
So you've in a sense, you're a commercial lobbyist. You do exactly what the lobbyists do in Washington, is you just promote a product. Yeah, and I'm not saying just because it's a big job, but you promote a product.
But while we're on that subject, Jamie, because she has this platform and this voice, you can also promote what matters to you and what you want to impart to young people, correct?
You know, I have today specifically, I have had such a weird day because my personality is that I want everyone to like be kind to each other, and I want to make sure that I'm not offending anyone. Like I said earlier, I like have to worry about what I say, what I post. And sometimes it's like you read stories in the news and you just want to go off about what's going on. And it's like, I do have to be aware of what I'm saying and say it in the right way. But there is I do feel this responsibility to speak on things that I normally don't, because there are so many eyes on me. And I feel like it's weird because there's this huge platform, and I feel like I always feel like I should be doing more. And that's a constant battle I have, I think, just as a human, not even just.
That must be so frustrating that you feel like you have to self-censor so much of the time.
But the thing is that I don't, like, no one is requiring me to. I do it to myself. Like, I self-censor myself. So it's something I'm working on. I just read this book by Glennon Doyle called Untamed. And she really got me, like, thinking about how we approach things, and how when we're young, we're taught to believe things, or we're taught to have opinions on certain things. And we just take what we're taught and believe that as our truth because we didn't know any difference. And she was talking about how sometimes we have to unlearn the things that we were taught by society, or, you know, how we were raised growing up. And it's been interesting because it's really opened my eyes to a lot of things that we should be talking about. And on the flip side, you have, I know you wrote this in the rundown, on the flip side, you have cancel culture, which is this like thing that's gone crazy in my opinion. And I think it's so unfair. So it's just, there's so many elements to what social media brings, and what your responsibility is, and also what you should speak on and what you should shut up about. Yeah. Right. I'm going to open my window so my lighting's going out.
Okay. And then when she comes back, we're going to talk about scrubbing in.
Oh, yes, please.
All right. So, Becca, your podcast is called Scrubbing In, inspired by your deep and abiding love for Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
Your co-host is Tanya Rad from iHeart. And how did you two team up?
So I met Tanya, 5 years ago, and we actually lived in the same building. I met her through an iHeart event. Post-Bachelor, I was, invited to a bunch of events and stuff like that. And I met her, and we literally shared a wall. We were neighbors, so we became best friends. And I guess it was almost 3 years ago, there was another podcast on iHeart done by two Bachelor alumni, and I co-hosted. I filled in for one of them. And our producer, Amy, afterwards was asking if I wanted to do a podcast. And I was very clear that I didn't want to do a Bachelor-centric focused podcast because there were a few out there already. And they're my friends. I didn't want to have the competition. And so we kind of were like, well, let's start something about what your interests are, TV shows you're watching, pop culture topics. So I started out with just me. And so I was basically talking to a producer. It was basically a monologue sometimes, which was really awkward for me because we would also have guests on and I was interviewing them, but I don't really consider myself an interviewer. That wasn't the direction I necessarily wanted to go. So Tanya came in.
That's a very difficult format for a podcast, just being solo.
Yeah, it was tough. And we did a few teasers where it was just me. And then we did a few episodes where I had a guest on and they were fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun. It was like something new and challenging for me, but we had Tanya on as a guest because my younger sisters had come on to be a guest and they're hilarious. They're so sarcastic and funny, but when they got behind the microphone, they totally froze.
Oh no.
And just like, I was sitting there looking at them like, what happened to y'all? What's going on? So we had to fill that episode and fill some gaps, and Tanya came on and it was just this instant chemistry. And I was looking at our producer like, is this feel like to anyone else? And so we talked about it afterwards, and she is a co-host on the morning show with Ryan Seacrest and has a huge fan base and following from that. So it was really cool to bring her on because she is such a professional at what she does and she's so good. And we just had this chemistry that worked, and it's really grown into something really, really awesome and exciting.
Yeah, it really is fun. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend scrubbing in with Becca Tilley and Tanya Rad. There is much speculation about your personal life, but since you have lived so much of your private life out loud, you are now choosing to enjoy a private relationship. Is your partner comfortable with that arrangement?
Yeah, it was hard at first because I was so public in my previous relationships that I think there was this question of why are we hiding this one all of a sudden? But my relationship coming out of The Bachelor was so public that I almost felt pressure when we broke up that I was letting people down. Like there was this pressure to post about the breakup or to acknowledge that we broke up because so many people were so invested in my relationship. And I was, in my mind, I thought, you're only seeing photos and videos. And he was amazing. It ended on great terms, but it was this weird sense of pressure. And I felt this responsibility that I owed people my personal life. And I put so much out there. And I thought, why can I not keep this one as myself? And there are other components to it why I've kept it private. But I think now it's become I like that it's private and it's my own thing. But there were times where we had conversations about
Becca, it's okay. You can talk about us, honey.
Danny, don't out us like
Come
that.
on, now let's go for it. Come on.
But yeah, it's always interesting because constantly, I'll do the question and answers thing on my Instagram, and it's always questions about my personal life. And I think a lot of people know who I'm dating and respect my privacy enough to, keep it private. But it is just something that I decided I wanted to keep as my own. And I think a lot of people have respected it, which is really nice because a lot of times that's not the case.
It's funny that people are watching relationships the way I watch sports. Like it's, I'm rooting for a team or who's winning.
There's probably a Tumblr page or a number of Tumblr pages with just photos of fan reactions in the episodes of The Bachelor where there's an audience. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Becca, this means a little too much to a lot of people. So there's people sitting in the audience when there's the Women Tell All episode or what have you. And the cutaways, the expressions are just, they are invested. They are invested. So I can't imagine what they say when they come up to you.
Is there betting? Do people bet on this stuff?
There's everything.
I'm sure. There's drafts, there's fantasy leagues. It's like
no way.
It really is like a sports thing.
No, if one of the bachelorettes gets injured, are you allowed to substitute another bachelorette on your fantasy team?
Only in the American League.
Yeah.
Now, people recognize you quite often, I imagine.
Yeah, it's so funny because it's been so long since I was on The Bachelor, but it's still really flattering to me when people come up. Although now I do have the podcast, which is nice to have something beyond being on The Bachelor that is mine. And people come up and it's not so much I loved you on The Bachelor. It's I love the podcast. I love what you're doing, which is
Great.
I'll forever. I mean, The Bachelor, both times, they were two of the best times in my life. I'll never forget it. It was amazing, but it's nice to have moved on to something that is my own and that I've built and created myself beyond what I was doing.
Have we mentioned that your podcast has won the People's Choice Awards 2 years in a row for Best Podcast?
Wow.
We did. We have the greatest listeners. That first year we were up against Oprah, Amy Schumer, some of the biggest names. And we were so honored to be nominated. We couldn't believe it. And then it cut down from 12 to 6, I think. And we made the next round and we were like, this is crazy. We beat Oprah. She didn't even make the final 6. And so that's our claim to fame, is just that we beat Oprah. But, and so our listeners, we call them our scrubbers. They are just the most loyal, kind. Like, we have the greatest Facebook group of all time. So it's beyond anything I conceived happening when I started the podcast.
Wow, that sounds so fulfilling.
Great.
And you also have a blog. This is Becca's lifestyle and travel blog.
It probably hasn't been updated in a while. I don't.
No one's traveling. That's cool. Like here I am in the kitchen.
Yeah. Another trip to the fridge.
Well, you could move around Paris. You have the map of Paris.
Yeah. We were talking about that earlier.
Is that what's on the wall? Map of I couldn't
You
see.
could do remote from Montmartre.
Yeah.
You should totally, Becca, you should take a push pin and put it somewhere like on Tuesday and then move it a little further.
There's glass over this, and I am not touching whatever that is built. I should not be touching it.
A little bit of tape.
Yeah.
All right, Dina goes deep into internet culture, so she's got some questions and some interesting topics that she would like to address with you.
This weekend, among many other pieces of celebrity content to go viral, a lot of people were canceled this weekend.
Yeah.
For those playing Khloe Kardashian posted a selfie on Instagram that reflected so much cosmetic surgery and digital image altering that it bore hardly any resemblance to her original or even most recent appearance. This image says something very important about our relationship to digital media. Khloe's new face isn't something on the internet, it's something of the internet. From the Photoshop work that brought that exact image into being to the way it took on a life of its own in the Instagram comments and Twitter jokes it inspired. It's a representation of how we've already merged inextricably with technology. Before we went into quarantine, the conversation about social media revolved around how it was affecting many of us negatively. But during the coronavirus pandemic, we're turning to social media for solutions to the feelings of isolation and despair that we were blaming it for just a few months ago. For influencers, continuing to be successful and ultimately profitable on social media may mean they will have to focus the bulk of their content on being a positive force in the world through the community which they've built. Influencers have a huge platform, but instead of using it to sell in this moment, it behooves everyone, including the influencer, to be real and vulnerable and support your followers through a difficult time. So I was wondering, what are the changes that you've been seeing in your own and other influencers' business models?
It's so interesting, speaking of the Khloe thing, because I saw that photo, and I mean, I think most people who are in this space know that there's a lot of pressure to look a certain way, and you feel a lot of pressure to have your face, like have your lips be a certain size, or have your nose be a certain size, or have your jawline look a certain way. And there's this this huge sense of pressure, because you post a photo of your natural self, you don't edit it all, and you get these horrible comments of people saying negative things about you, and to the point where you feel like you need to alter a photo to where it doesn't look like you, and then people start saying you have plastic surgery, and it's like this whole thing of it all stems from an insecurity of wanting people to accept you. And that's kind of the whole thing about social media and what it has become. But on the flip side, I have been following a lot more people who are posting photos where They don't edit anything. They show, their cellulite, their stretch marks. They talk about how much weight they've gained because all they've been doing is sitting around and eating. And to be honest, I have honestly, I'll just be really honest with you right now. I have not struggled in quarantine. I love being at home. I'm very good at doing nothing. I'm very good at being entertained with what I have at home. I've read more. I've worked out more than I ever have during this time. I've gone on walks. So I can't relate to a lot of what people have been struggling with in that sense, because I'm on the opposite side where I feel stress and pressure to be in the scene and be social when really I want to be an introvert and be at home. And I'm, with my job and meeting people and going to events, I'm always like having to be on and talk and meet people and be introduced. So, I've been following
like a respite for you.
Yeah, for me, I feel a little bit anxious about things going back to normal and the pressure to show up to everything I'm invited to, because people are like, well, you've been at home for 3 months. Why are you not excited to go out and do stuff when I enjoy being home? I do miss my friends a lot, but I've been really trying to focus on keeping things light and making my social media something that people can just come to, whether they feel encouraged by something I post on my story or feel encouraged maybe to work out if they were feeling like not feeling good about themselves and they want to go work out just to get some endorphins going. And just kind of be not such a heavy place and not focus so much on the negatives of this, but kind of focus on what could be positive that comes from this. But the truth is that it's a time where people are struggling, and some people are struggling and some are thriving. And it's always going to be that way. Whether when things go back to normal, there's going to be people who miss this time of simplicity and relaxation and working from home. And then there's going to be people who are like, I am the best I've ever felt because I'm reset and now things are normal. So social media is just kind of finding the balance of being sensitive to what people are going through and also just being myself to where people feel like there's some normalcy, I guess.
Can you guys clarify, Dina and Becca or anybody, cancel culture? I mean, technically, what are we saying?
We're not at that part of the rundown yet, Danny. Hold that thought, because Dina has a couple more questions.
But I still haven't gotten my soup.
Oh.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit, Becca, but are there ways to adapt to the changing landscape going forward? For example, will we see a shift to a more accessible rather than aspirational branding style?
I think, it's so interesting because I did a post for a denim company and I'm like, no one's wanting to try on jeans right now,
None of us are wearing pants.
No one's wearing pants, especially jeans.
That sounds like a nightmare, trying on jeans right now.
Pants.
That's the fun of Zoom.
But I think it's like, I guess it's more so just thinking of what, for me, I was thinking, okay, eventually, to be honest, since I've been working out, I'm actually fitting into my jeans again, which I was so excited about because before the quarantine, I was like, none of my clothes fit. I'm just about to have to get a whole new wardrobe, which would have been fine, but I have some expensive clothes. And I was like, I don't want to give up just yet. So doing the jeans thing, I thought people are going to need clothes eventually. I don't feel like people are never going to wear jeans again, but I think it's more so just being sensitive to what we're talking about, what we're complaining about mostly, because when I go to complain or talk about something, I have to check myself and be like, is that just the most basic, ridiculous thing I could ever complain about?
It's so hard to find a good brie.
Yeah. It's really like the things that we focus on. I think that's been the main shift is trying to make sure that we're being aware of what's going on. I'm reading the news today and seeing some of the things I've read. It's just, it kind of helps put things into perspective and realizing, the privilege that a lot of us have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, so let's go to cancel culture now, since Danny is so eager to learn about it, and I think he's going to love it. I really think he's going to get on board immediately and cancel a whole list of people.
What?
So what's Twitter trending today is Jimmy Fallon. The internet has at long last discovered that he wore blackface impersonating Chris Rock 20 years ago on SNL. And Decider tweets, okay, basically it's a screen grab of Jimmy Fallon as Chris Rock, which I guess was okay to do back then. It's certainly not okay to do now. Basically, we're all at home and we're scouring through everyone's history and we're finding things about them that we can reveal today and be the star of today's Twitter trends. But Weekly Musical tweeted, me reading about Doja Cat, Lana Del Rey, Azalea Banks, and Dave Chappelle, and now Jimmy Fallon, all in 3 days. So let's talk for a moment with Becca here, who is an expert, about cancel culture.
No pressure.
Is it deserved? Is it deserved, or are we all bored, outraged, hyper-focused on the internet, and redirecting our rage?
I'm no expert, by the way.
Oh.
You're the
First
wrong
of all,
person.
Dina, what did these other people do? The people that are listed in this tweet, what did they do? And Danny, what cancel culture is like the internet deciding you're done.
Your career's over.
Yeah.
So
it's very harsh. And the needle moves it moves hard in either direction just because the group of us, that's everyone on Twitter, decides this is the right way to feel about a thing. And
so Twitter, is it specifically Twitter or is it?
It has nothing to do with, I mean, not nothing, but Twitter is just one way
one
that
indicator.
It can be like one platform for the discussion about
so if many platforms.
The cancellation can result from a variety of actions or, online posts or whatever from any point in a celebrity's past.
Okay, Becca, take it away. What do we need to know about this, and what are your opinions?
Expert.
Cancel culture to me is, I think it's a really toxic way that we've handled education and discussion, because I think I watch Friends now, and there's things that I think they could not say that now. But at the time, it was no one even questioned it. You think of a bunch of different movies that if I've watched them that are from like the 90s or early 2000s, and it's like that would so not fly right now because it's so incorrect. But I struggle with cancel culture because I think it takes away the opportunity for people to learn and grow, because immediately they're shunned and they're not supported anymore. And I think if people are given the chance and the grace to correct themselves and prove themselves that they're learning to do better and be better, then I think that then we all move forward in the sense that we have all educated ourselves and learned something from it. But I think with cancel culture, it has led to people getting death threats and telling them to kill themselves. And I just think it's taken too far. And I think there's a way of saying, hey, this is wrong and this is not tolerated. Do better and be better and educate yourself, rather than it going to a point of saying your life is not of value to us anymore because you made a mistake.
Right, because that, no one learns when they're being scolded. And you guys addressed this on your most recent episode of Scrubbing In, because you were talking about Hannah Brown and she had said something objectionable. I'm not sure what it was, but you were making this point exactly, that when you open up a conversation, when you say, like earlier, I texted in our text here on Zoom, I texted Danny, the pen clicking is picking up, and he stopped clicking his pen. If I had typed, you're canceled,
Yeah.
he would have been,
Yeah. And
Danny, Jane, you ignorant slut.
It's interesting because even how I addressed it, I question whether I said enough, because I never want racial ignorance to be tolerated, and I never want people to think that it's okay. And that she was singing a song lyric, and a lot of people were like, well, it's just a song lyric. But I think the thing is that people always assume if they're not offended by something, then it's not offensive, which is not the case. Because if you're a white person, you're never going to be offended. You have never been offended by that word because you're white and you've never struggled with that. So I think the thing is that sometimes cancel culture doesn't allow room, like I said in my podcast, it doesn't allow room for people to have a chance to be better, because all of a sudden they're scared to even learn, because they feel like, what's the point? Everyone hates me.
Right. You have to feel loved in order to be motivated to change. Like, oh, I get it. I mean, every decade of my life, I know more. And also society is moving forward. So we know more and we accept more about all sorts of different types of people, or, what white privilege is, or that, I've been walking around in white skin my whole life. So what do I know? And it's certainly not my place to say. I just have to listen. You have to read more books about different cultures and what it's like in different parts of the world and different periods of time to learn more, but it's never my place to speak for what would offend another person. And so you made your point really eloquently on the podcast, and I thought that was exceptional. So
Weezy, can I jump in for a second too? I think another thing too is that my problem with cancel culture more than anything is it stops us from looking at the systemic problems, because like we're canceling Jimmy Fallon for wearing blackface on SNL, right? But he didn't go on that show. Like there were writers of that sketch. Lorne Michaels approved that. So it's like you can cancel him, and I don't approve of what he did, but it's like we need to ask ourselves, why in 2000 was it okay for blackface to be on the most popular sketch show in America?
Is it just because people weren't watching Saturday Night Live?
I don't know, but
we were watching.
People don't care. I mean, it's the same thing with the senator or governor that had the blackface photo in the yearbook.
Right.
It's like if he leaves, that doesn't change the fact that there's an entire yearbook committee that's still out there that thought it was okay to post. So it's like I think we need to be more critical of the institutions and less critical of the individuals, because then all that does is it makes one person ostracized, and then everyone says, we did it, we fixed stuff, and nothing got fixed.
And
and then there's
we have to be willing to evolve.
Right. Yeah,
Because
for sure.
I don't know what it is with this species of mine that I love so much. I love my own species, but they're not willing to evolve. And when they start evolving, they act surprised. And I got to tell you that Jimmy Fallon is an actor and a performer. Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder was an actor.
Right. Well, but that's the other thing too, is it gets tricky there, because Robert Downey Jr. was satirizing the fact that so it's like, where does that line go? Because it's like he was clearly making fun of white actors that did that. So it's like, is that okay because he was making fun of her? Is it still blackface?
I was being sarcastic.
Exactly.
If we pulled up every Mac and Jamie sketch from 20 years ago, I'm sure we could cancel them 100 different ways.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
we are learning and we are moving forward, and we don't accept things today. So to chastise someone for something that was chosen for him, maybe with him and for him 20 years ago. And I mean, that just, to me, that's testament to like how bored we are at home. Yeah. That you need to spend an entire day on Jimmy Fallon from 20 years ago.
No, you say he's cancel culture. I mean, his show's not canceled.
No.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
Isn't it basically somebody on the internet's pissed off at him? Is that what we're saying?
It's a group opinion for a 48-hour news cycle, Danny.
Because that's the other thing too. Is a lot of people I mean, like look at Louis C.K. Like he's back selling out rooms. Like he didn't lose anything significant really, except a year off of touring. So it's like it doesn't even actually have that big of an outcome.
It would probably be good if Jimmy Fallon made a statement, and he probably will. He's with his publicist right now figuring out what to say.
Curious, has Chris Rock made a statement about it?
I don't lose respect for Jimmy Fallon for what he did as a performer. I do lose respect for Louis because of what he did.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're different circumstances. My only point was that it isn't – the canceling doesn't even last that long anyways. I mean, it's like Paula.
So it's not really canceled.
She got off.
My point is that there are still, just like there are yearbook committees out there, there are still people out there who can't stand CK because of what he did. And I won't go see him. I won't.
No, yeah, me either.
Well, hanging out in the green room. I'm not going to say hi.
Look, we all have people that we have personally really canceled, like we're done, and that's a personal choice. Like if I don't want to watch a Mel Gibson movie, that's my personal choice. But I think what I'm learning to do is keep the list pretty short, because a lot of people have done things and there's a separation, as Danny has spoken of on past episodes.
I was going to say, yeah.
The artist. But now someone who will never be canceled, I can promise you, is Becca's Pomeranian. Becca's Pop has an Instagram page. I am Phoebe Tilley. I'm not sure if it's, does it have the check mark?
No.
It's not verified. It's not verified, but I think that's her. Yeah.
Phoebe, come here. We're talking about you.
Phoebe.
Wait a second. How does she type?
Well, I've trained her well.
Wow.
Very
brilliant.
He just uses emojis.
Her paws taught her to type.
Yeah.
Her paw taught her.
I like her IG aesthetic.
Yeah, she has a gorgeous aesthetic.
It's popping. Is she there? Can you go get her?
No, she's under the couch.
Oh, she is. All right.
Yeah. No, she's the best. She's I did not want a dog. I was not looking for a dog because I was traveling a lot, but my sisters lived with me at the time and they just kept talking about it, and they were like, how great would it be to come home to a little dog on the couch? And I was looking for my parents. I went and looked at these dogs and I held her and she nuzzled into my neck, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going home with this dog.
Yeah.
Just
and you didn't have to compete with 20 other dog owners for her attention.
No, I was like the bachelorette, and then it was her and then a brother and a sister, and she chose me and I chose her. So.
I know that moment with the dog with those roses in its mouth is just adorable.
It's the best.
Well, I want to thank Becca Tilley for being our guest today. Is there anything else that you wanted to shout out while we have you here?
I mean, go listen to the podcast. I'm going to promote this so all of the scrubbers will be listening in. And I just want to say thank you for having me on.
We're so grateful that you spent time with us. Our guest is Becca Tilley. Our panel is Jamie Elcroft and Danny Mann. Our producer is Dina Friedman. Our tech team is Lane McFadden, Thomas Hubble, Francesco D'Amanda, and Michael Tellep. Our webmaster is Bill Filipiak. Our sound mixer is John Maddox. We will see you next week. I'm Louise Palanker. Be safe, be well, and be kind.